Hey, everybody, this is Jason Creel, and I want to welcome those of you watching live and those of you that are going to watch the replay to the Lawn Care Life channel. And I've got a special guest. You might recognize the guy next to me on the screen, and this is Roger Wakefield, as he introduces himself, lead AP, the expert plumber, as I've heard you. So, Roger, thank you so much for being with us today.
Jason, look, it's a pleasure to be here. I like what you're doing on YouTube. I think it's a great deal.
Yeah. Well, I know you do a lot on YouTube as well. I checked your channel. You got nearly 300,000 subscribers. So you obviously people are attracted to what the information you're sharing and your personality and things like that. So, you know, being that I thought one reason I wanted to have you on here because I knew you got experience with the service business. And I know it's plumbing and lawn care, but there's got to be a lot of similarities in a service business. But can you, for those of you, since it's a new audience for you, can you just kind of introduce yourself and tell us your story of how you became Roger Wakefield, the expert plumber, and then also your background just in the plumbing business so we can know who we're talking to here?
You bet. Jason, I started plumbing just over 40 years ago while I was still in high school. And I worked for a lot of other people, made a lot of other people a lot of money. Then what I did is 3 years ago, I walked into a social media marketing event to learn how to make my phone ring. I'm a residential service provider just like you. So I walked in trying to figure out how to make my phone ring. I got tired of marketing companies ripping me off. So I went in, learned, I found out about YouTube. And I decided when I walked out, I was going to go home, start doing YouTube and find a way to make it work. And within a month, we started putting up videos. Now, remember, that's 3 years ago, the first week of April.
Okay.
We put up our first video. Now we've got almost 31 million views, 300,000 subscribers. And when I opened my own company 5 years ago, I knew I had to do something different. And I'm one of these guys, I always want to outperform everybody else. I met a coach named Jeremy Vest. You're very familiar with him. He taught me how to do YouTube and worked with me for a year. And look, Jeremy is phenomenal, taught me a lot of great things. And we've taken it, grown with it, and done well with it. And what I would tell anybody watching this, either live or on the replay, is social media is a way to make your phone ring. It is marketing, not advertising. You're informing people about what you do, but you're not trying to sell to them all the time. And it really is a pretty cool deal.
All right. And for those of you watching, just feel free to ask your questions about small business, about plumbing, about, you know, whatever you want to ask Roger about. He feel like he'll share with us pretty much anything. But Roger, help me understand, you know, how when you started on YouTube, did you trying to grow your local business and before it kind of evolved into this YouTube monster that you are now? But how did that start off? Because like I said, if your business is only 5 years old, is that correct?
You bet. My plumbing company is 5 years old. And we had literally hired marketing companies that were making our phone stop ringing. They always wanted to rebuild the web page. They always wanted to do something. Yeah. And so we decided that we could make videos teaching people how to fix their own plumbing. The thing is, most people don't want to fix it. They just want to know that you know what you're doing. And we started branding ourselves and building ourselves that way. And that's what started making the phone ring at Texas Green Plumbing, which is my plumbing company in Dallas. Then we started realizing we were getting more plumbers or people that wanted to get into plumbing watching our videos. So we started changing what we were doing, how we were doing it. And it started taking off from there. And then we started changing the content we were making and who we were making it for. Now I've got residential service people from all kinds of different trades getting in my live streams, watching my videos, commenting, and it really is a pretty cool deal.
What's the coolest opportunities you've had from being on YouTube?
Well, the first conference I ever got asked to speak at was VidCon. I've never heard of VidCon. And when I got notified, I literally got an email. So I'm sending a message to Jeremy and said, hey, man, look, I just got asked to speak at VidCon. What do I do? He said, you say yes. I'm like, dude, what is VidCon? I've never heard of it. He said, it is the largest social media marketing conference in the world. So I did. And I tell you what, it's been phenomenal. I've spoken at many social media marketing conferences. I've spoken at roofing conferences. I spoke for PHCC. I've spoke for WET. I mean, I travel around now speaking at conferences. It's not a bad deal.
So you obviously knew the plumbing from doing that 40 years, but when you start going around speaking, so I've had a couple opportunities of that as well, but how did you hone your craft as a public speaker? Was that something you were already comfortable with, or did you do some training in that, or how did it go at VidCon, getting up there with a big audience, I imagine?
It actually went well. The good thing is, Jason, and you know this from YouTube, literally you're talking to one person at a time, and that's that person watching your video.
Yeah.
And if you always remember that, whenever I'm on stage speaking, I'm talking to one person. It's whoever's listening to me. And you may have a room with 1,000 people in it, but when you look out in the crowd and you say, look, all you have to do if you want to grow in social media is do this. That one person hears you and they believe it. So I didn't have a speaking coach in the beginning. I actually tried to hire one, and she told me, you don't need any help. She said, people are going to try to tell you to pronounce words different, to lose your Texas accent.
Yeah.
And things like that. And she said, you be very polite, look at them and say, okay, thank you, and keep doing things the way you're doing it. Now I have a speaking coach, but they teach me how to write my speeches, and they teach me how to just present better from the stage. But it's not how to talk to people. It's nothing like that. It's literally just how to deliver my message better. Yeah,
I got you. Yeah, I get a lot. You can imagine with my accent, I get a lot of the same feedback on, because you just, at some point you can't change who you are, your personality. But I think, and on YouTube, that seems to be what attracts a lot of people. They want to talk to you, and from Texas, they don't want a professional actor who's. Anyway, I'm going to take some of the questions here. This guy, he says, YouTube has changed my career from a pharmacy owner to a paramotor instructor. I'm not sure what a paramotor instructor is, but it sounds like he's got talking about YouTube. And he went on to ask, same guy here, Roger, did you was your plan at first to, grow your YouTube and that become sort of a side business, or did that kind of happen almost by accident?
Like I told you, we literally started the YouTube channel thinking that we were just going to teach our customers how to fix their own plumbing. I never thought that, my wildest dreams never saw me getting to 300,000 followers, never saw me making the kind of money that I can make on YouTube. It blows my mind. And I never saw that coming. If somebody would have told me in the very beginning, hey, Roger, look, you can make an extra $1 million a year by doing YouTube, I'd have said, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But now that I'm in it and I'm starting to see what's happening, it's like, look, that $1 million a year is really going to be pretty easy to do.
How much of it, because I don't get, I'm not going to get $1 million this year, but how much of it do you think, Roger, is your, because we're all trying to get better at YouTube, and is your personality, how much of it is personality and how much of it is can be taught almost in a sense?
Yeah, look, there are people on YouTube that have no personality whatsoever. I think the fact that I do have fun, I enjoy what I do. I can look at this camera and tell a joke just as easy as I could if me and you were sitting here side by side.
Yeah.
And the fact that I understand the person on the other side of that camera, the information that I give them can help change their life. And to me, that's a big deal. And I love that. I love the fact that I can teach people or help teach people a trade that they can get out and start doing that can literally, Julie and I, my wife, call it learning your way up. What can you learn to get you up to the next level to where you can afford to get out of whatever situation you're in? So I look at it like that. And man, I love what I'm doing. I'm having fun at it. And Jason, I mean, you're much younger than me. I'm almost 60 years old. And when people look at me and they say, what makes you think, you can start doing YouTube at 60? I don't know. Who told me I couldn't, though? I probably wouldn't have listened.
Well, that's pretty cool that you started a business 5 years ago, where a lot of people are trying to figure out how to retire then, and you sort of found your niche, a little bit later on, or not. You're doing the same thing, but just figured out how to make it your own. Let's take some of the lawn care questions, or I'm going to let you answer some of these. But it says, second season here in lawn care business, so many more calls than the previous season. Best tip for taking the leap to a bigger shop and more equipment. What, Roger, on your situation, when you start to grow as a plumber, I'm assuming it's like lawn care. You kind of get out there and hustle by yourself, and then it doesn't seem to take very long if you get a good reputation that you outgrow yourself, and you just simply can't do it. And that's just to be honest, I don't know how it is in plumbing, but for lawn care, that's where most of us get stuck. It's like getting from one employee yourself to two is the biggest jump. Going from 2 to 3 to 3 to 4 is not easy, but it seems like that first one is the most difficult. So what advice would you give somebody who's, like I said, this guy's saying second season, to get to that bigger shop, more equipment, and make that leap?
Here's what I would say, and this is what I did in my plumbing company. I literally ran everything that I could do by myself before I hired anybody. And that's really a big deal to me because, I was running a truck 40, 50, 60 hours a week before I hired anybody. Then I started letting them run 40 hours a week, and I was picking up all the overflow. But then that gave me time to work on my business, to help grow my business. That way, whenever it got to where I was doing 40 hours a week and he was, then I could bring in another plumber. Now I was working on the business more and more, and it's a big deal. Real big deal.
I got you. All right. So what would you say is the most common mistake that makes you doubt yourself starting any business? Did you have, like, being an employee for, I guess 35 years ish, and you decided to go out on your own? Did you, obviously you didn't need anybody to teach you the plumbing side, but what about the business side? Did you kind of question, like, can I do this, or is that just not your personality?
Oh no, I questioned everything I did, but the good thing is I kept moving forward. So two things here, and I want to say to Miguel is, one of the biggest mistakes is not pricing things high enough. We all want to undercut everybody else's price to get work, but the bad thing is you're probably undercutting people that aren't making money anyway. Because if you're trying to be the cheapest guy in town, that's what you're going to be, the cheapest guy in town. What I would tell you is find a way to sell more value. How can you explain to people why you're better and do things better? And if you can continuously do that, man, it's going to give you a reputation. You don't want the reputation for being the cheapest. You want the reputation for being the best. And to me, if you're the best, they don't expect you to be the cheapest. So that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I looked at in the beginning. I kept saying, it's kind of hard to charge this much. I don't know that we'll get it. I don't know that we'll get it. Now it's like every time I get the opportunity, I raise my prices because, look, we're slammed all the time. And it's like, look, if I charge 15% more, but I lose 15% of my customers, it's okay. I'm still doing the same amount of work, but we're still bringing great value, and that's a big deal.
So what were some of the things you did to kind of set yourself apart? Because I see the exact same thing happens in lawn care where people, they come in there and what I tell people when they're starting out, I said, listen, there's gonna be lots of opportunities for work, but you gotta have to be a little more selective because like plumbing, you might drive an hour if you got a $10,000 plumbing job. I can't drive an hour to cut a $40 yard. It doesn't make any sense.
You bet.
So sometimes people end up getting busy and they're not really making a lot of money. So how did you kind of differentiate yourself but sort of have that professional image from the beginning to where you could go ahead and start attracting the better jobs from the beginning?
And here's one of the big things, and it was really good for me. One of the marketing guys that I hired that did a good job for me, he told me when he looked at my website, he said, "You don't look like a very big company." I said, "I'm not." He said, "Well, the people looking at the website don't know that." He said, "You need to build your company where you look like you're the biggest plumbing company in town." And I told him, I said, "Well, Scott, I'm not." He said, "Well, if you keep that in your mind, you're never going to be."
Yeah.
So we started building my website where I looked as big or as good as any other plumbing company in Dallas. And it completely changed our game whenever we did that. But I learned from the very beginning, Jason, to sell the value in what I do. If you're going to work on somebody's yard, do you understand fertilizer? Do you understand the cycle that you need to go through? How many times a year do you need to fertilize? What fertilizer do you use? When do you need to aerate? When do they need to trim the trees? When do they need to put in fresh mulch? What do they need to do? And are you keeping your customers educated? Are you staying ahead of them? Because if you are, you're bringing them value that most people don't. And if you'll do that, you're worth more money to them.
And so do you do that on your initial consultation with that customer? Do you try to, in a sense, qualify yourself and show them that you know what you're doing, because, what I'm saying? Like a lot of people just price shop and I don't know how you weed through those, but it seems like you'd want them right when you meet them. How do you let them know, hey, this guy's worth 10 to 20% more than the other guy?
And I'm trying to look at it from your point of view. If I were a lawn care person,
yeah,
I would look at the fact, number one, if you can give me an address, I can go to either the county appraisal district, find out how big your lot is, and I could probably have a ballpark price set up. Look, if your lot is 10,000 square feet, this is about our normally monthly fee on retainer, because you pay me the first of every month and we come out 4 or 5 weeks a month, however many Thursdays or whatever day you're there.
Yeah.
But and that gives them a ballpark, because some people want a ballpark, they're not going to let you talk to them without giving them ballpark pricing. But then I'd get out there and I say, okay, but look, I'm looking at your flower bed. It really needs to be maintained. We recommend doing that 4 times a year. You've got St. Augustine grass. We recommend putting fertilizer down 5 times a year. A lot of people will tell you 4 times, but here's the deal. If you do that 5th time and you build the schedule right and explain why you can bring a value to them. And if you're telling them things, and Jason, I know because I've walked in and talked to people, we specialize in slab leaks and leak detection. And any house I've ever walked in and started explaining why we do what we do, most of those people tell me, I've never had a plumber talk to me the way you do. And it's like, man, look, I want you to know why we do what we do, because I'm not the cheapest plumber in town and I've never wanted to be. And I mean, think about it. I make videos on YouTube. I've had people call me out and say, look, I used you because of your statement. You're not the cheapest plumber. I don't want the cheapest. I want the best. And it does. It helps set you apart from other people.
That makes sense. It seems like, there's a percent of society that's going to go for the cheapest, and then there's a percent that's going to go somewhere in the middle, and then there's a percent that's going to go the expensive. It's like, well, why wouldn't I get the ones that are paying more? I mean, it's no more work, and anyway, it just makes a lot of sense. I want to take the next question. All right, Jesus says, here's a question people give me different answers to. How do you know when it's time to step away from your 9 to 5 and do your own dream? That the risk involved from leaving that steady job. Did you, Roger, I'll let you address that, but did you kind of save up money to be able to make that jump, or you just get mad at your boss one day and quit, or you know how? Because you hear stories of people doing this all the time, and it's they got fired, they quit, or they just wanted to do it. What would you say to somebody in that situation?
Well, and saving up your money and doing it that way would be the smart way. And I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I literally, I pulled the Michael Gerber. I don't know if you've read E-Myth. I think it's a great book.
Oh yeah, I've read E-Myth.
Okay, well, I hired Michael Gerber as my first coach. And Michael Gerber taught me a lot about what to do, but he didn't show me how to do it. So I had to learn a lot. But to answer this question, and y'all's business can be a little bit different than mine because y'all's can be seasonal. But if you look for things around the house that you can do, I know my guy, he'll come work on the fence during the wintertime. He'll come in and aerate the yard at a certain time. He comes back and does fertilizer. I mean, I think I pay him the same thing all year long, but he's always coming out here, even in the wintertime, doing things. So the big deal to me is, how do you figure out when to walk away from your 9 to 5? It's when you can make as much money to afford the same lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't want to start my own business, but take a pay cut. So I started looking at, how do I do this? Now, I literally walked out of my office on a Friday not knowing what I was going to do, but I started getting out and networking. I started getting out, going into real estate offices, talking to them, and finding out what I could do to become their plumber. And it really did. It helped me a lot.
Have you ever struggled with this, what they call like employee mindset, where you say, hey, you know, when I was a plumber for this plumbing company, that I was making $30 an hour and so now I've got my own company and I made $40 an hour. So that's great. I'm making, you know, more money. But, you know, not thinking about all the overhead. I feel like lawn care people do that sometimes. They think $40 an hour sounds great. And it's really almost a guaranteed failure. You know, so how do you overcome like thinking like an employee in those situations?
You know, the good thing is I've always done good. Even when I worked for other people, I always made a lot more than most of the other plumbers. And this is something that I teach on different things that I talk about, but I have more endorsements. I have more knowledge. I have more assets. I'm a lead AP. I mean, there's all kinds of things I do to help set myself apart. What I would tell anybody in the lawn care business is, look, learn the lawn care. Learn what fertilizer is the best fertilizer. I've got a brother-in-law that has a 3,000-acre sod farm on the Red River. And when I talk to him about fertilizer, man, he knows boom, 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 everything. Yeah. And to me, if you're going to be that lawn care technician, and don't just say, look, I'm the yard guy. Hey, I'm the lawnmower. Hey, I'm a lawn care technician because I studied lawns. I knew when I walked up, you've got watering problems because parts of your yard are yellow and parts of it are green. Oh, well, I thought that was because no. It's because you've got heads not working. You've got something. Understand, when I walk up to a house for plumbing, I'm already looking at, where are the two-way cleanouts? Where's the valve box? I can look up at the house by the vent and probably tell you how it's plumbed. There's a lot of things that you can tell by walking up. As a lawn care technician, when you walk up to people's house, you need to be able to, hey, look, you've got these weeds, you've got this, you've got this. Here's what you need. You didn't aerate last year, did you? And go through and be able to talk to them and have them say, how do you know this? Look, I'm a lawn care technician. I study this stuff.
Yeah.
Because then You're not like anybody who's just walked up, rang the doorbell and said, hey, can I mow your yard?
Do you try to, and I'm sorry, I'm asking more questions than there's questions that I'm going to get to here, but do you try, maybe it's a little different in plumbing, but we deal with the same recurring clients all the time. Do you try, some people want to just keep it separate and like, that's just business, I don't care if I ever meet them, or do you try to establish a little bit of relationship with a customer where it's going to be painful for them to fire you?
No, I love this. Number one, you don't ever want to not build a relationship. You want these people to know you. You want them. And here's one thing that I teach my plumbers. Every customer you have, fall in love with them, because if you do, you'll always do the right thing. And if you treat your people like that and you build relationships with them, they'll stay with you forever. Even if you have somebody go out and do their yard, say you hire another technician, maybe he scalps it. Maybe he busted a sprinkler head. You know what? They're not going to care. Hey, that's right. You know what? Jason will take care of it. I'm not worried about it. Everything's good. Yeah. Hey, Jason, look, man, that guy you sent out, man, I really like him, but he broke 2 of my heads. Hey, you know what, Tom? Don't worry about it. I got it. And they know the kind of person you are. You're going to always have that. If you build relationships with your clients, when you come to them and say, hey, look, you really do need to put down a pre-emergent this winter. I'm going to come back and do that. Here's how much it is. I just want to let you know so you're ready for it, because I'm going to do that, and then we're going to aerate, and then we're going to get ready for a good year. If you communicate with them, talk to them like they're your friend, they're always going to tell you, yeah.
That's a good tip. I do think anytime I've thought about this the other day, like you have people and they, as you deal with customers over years and years, you have people that go through serious tragedies or have babies. It's almost like a friend, like you're saying. I mean, and it's almost, as you get hundreds of them, you might have to make little notes in your software or something to keep track of it. But like, hey, so-and-so's mom died last year, or so-and-so had a new baby, or, and be able to ask them, and, just like you would do with anybody in a relationship. All right, this says, starting my new lawn care business this year, looking for the best way to kick off getting customers. Let me try to address that for a second, and we'll get Roger's thoughts. But Randy, I think to me, you got to take the short-term view and the long-term view. I call it like short-term branding or short-term marketing, but you got your long-term branding. So then sometimes there's a little overlap, but for the long term, having a website and building relationships with people in the community is great. And that's, for me, that's by far the 2 things I do to get customers. My website, it ranks well on Google. I get lots of leads. And then I'm doing weed control and fertilization. I have developed relationships with all these people mowing grass. And when they get asked, I know this because I used to mow grass, and they would, hey, who do you recommend for weed control? Well, I've gotten to know these guys, and they say, hey, give Jason a call. So that is, but neither one of those are short-term answers. Okay. So I think you need to start that process of both of those, but in the short term, I mean, and there's another question on here, but it's local Facebook groups. I mean, lawn care, the scariest thing that actually does work is door to door on a Saturday in the spring when the weather's nice and everybody and their brother's out working on their lawn. That does work. It may or may not be legal in your area or something you're comfortable with. But yeah, it can be rough the first year just getting customers, but I would begin quickly establishing those relationships. Roger, you have anything? How did you kind of stir people up that first year when you started out?
You know what? And you hit it really good. I like the door to door, but why wait till the spring when they're already out working on their yard? I'd get out there now. Get out there and go by. And I mean, number one, think about proximity. What neighborhood do you live in? Can you get out and go door to door and say, hey, look, I'm Roger. I've got a new lawn care business. I'm a lawn care technician. I could tell when I walked up, you probably didn't put a pre-emergent down. You probably didn't do this. You probably didn't do that. It's not too late to fix it. I don't know who does your yard for you. I just wanted to come by and tell you, look, if you have somebody, that's good. do like I do. Walk up and knock on the door, and when they answer the door, say, "Are you in love with your lawn care technician?" And if they say, "Yes, I am," turn around, walk off, leave. And they'll be like, wait, come here. Wait, why are you leaving? Look, if you've got somebody you're in love with, I don't want to mess that up. And you'd be surprised how many say, "Well, I don't know that I really love him."
Yeah.
Well, that's what you said a while ago. You said you loved him. Look, he's good. Okay, look, I'm not good. I'm great. People love me. My customers love me. That's why I ask, do you have a lawn care technician you love? Because if you do, that's a great thing. If you don't, we really should talk, because I want to take care of you. And when you make it all about them, and do you have somebody you love, and what can I do to help you? But remember, you've got to be that lawn care technician. You've got to be able to look at their yard when you walk up and say, "Hey, you probably didn't do this, you probably didn't do this, and you probably didn't do that. That's why your yard looks like it does now." Don't mean that bad. It can be saved if you do things right. And that's a great way to build a rapport with these customers. Because when you walk up and you start telling them, "I doubt you did this, this, and this last year," and they know dadgum good and well they didn't do it, they're going to say, "How do you know that?" Look, I study lawns. I'm a lawn. This is what I do for my life.
Yeah.
And when you build that relationship with them, you're with them forever.
Yeah, I do. When I go up to people and I'll try to identify their weeds, they'll ask me about this weed or that weed. If I hopefully I know the answer, but I say, "Listen, I look at weeds all day, every day. That's what I do. I stare at but it's a chance." And I'll say this to Randy on the question. You do early on. The one big advantage you have is because if you're out there by yourself, you can sell yourself over the big company they're currently dealing with, where you got a $15 an hour technician taking care of the lawn, and you're saying, "No, I'm going to be the one handling your yard personally." Now, you don't want to overpromise, because you may not be able to take care of that from now on, but I pull that card a lot of times when I go against the big companies.
And think about that too, Jason. If you tell them you're the one doing it, well, now a year from now, you're so busy, you're hiring technicians. They're like, "Wait, Jason, you told me you were coming to do my lawn. That's what I want." You don't want to build yourself a job. You always want to have, like Michael Gerber says, a way to take it to scale.
Yes.
Go from an employee, a company of 1 to an enterprise of 10,000. But another good thing, Randy, is getting in a local networking group in your area. It may start with the Chamber of Commerce. Me and my wife are heavily involved with Master Networks, but I'm telling you, if there was a landscape guy, a lawn care technician, somebody that came to our networking group on a regular basis and taught us about what he did, why he does it, and just, literally walk in and tell them about, "Hey, y'all know it's time for the first round of fertilizer this year. Have all y'all done your fertilizer?" And you start having people say, "Wait, it's already time for fertilizer?" When you can be that person that they know, love, and trust, and you're connected with them, you'll be their lawn guy.
Have you ever taken, Roger, I'm asking you this one, have you ever taken opportunities to speak at like local neighborhood groups or civic groups, or, and just as a way to like, "Hey, I'm the expert plumber," and you're doing it as a service, but it's a kind of also marketing for your, you're getting in front of influential people, and just they can sit there and listen to you for 30 minutes and know that, "Hey, if I ever have a plumbing problem, I'm calling this guy."
And it's a great way to put it, Jason. Think about that. If you can go out and talk to like homeowner associations, HOAs, even the Chamber of Commerce, going and talking to them, joining the chamber for whatever city you want to do most of your business in, to me, it's a no-brainer. It doesn't cost that much. It puts you in front of entrepreneurs in that city already that are there trying to grow their business. They want to help you and support you. And guys, I'll tell you right now, there's no lawn care technicians there. There's no plumbers there. People like us don't go to stuff like that. So when you do, you've got their business. You'll be doing the lawn at the Chamber of Commerce. They're not going to have the city do it. They're going to have you do it. Everybody in there is going to be like, "Oh my God, look, can you go over here? Because I want you to do my grandmother's house." There's so many different things that you can do that literally can start you growing your business today. It'll blow your mind.
Our carpet man asks, do either of you land work from Facebook? I don't do much Facebook, but I do get some customers from there. I do think those local groups, if you can get your friends to recommend you in their neighborhood groups, like these private groups that are, then that really works. I got a friend and he wasn't even trying to do lawns, and he ended up getting 25 in his own neighborhood. I say he wasn't trying. I mean, he's just kind of like wanting to do a little bit on the side, but he's in the exclusive Facebook group that none of the rest of us can get in.
Here's a good thing. I've got a friend that he's actually the guy who got me into plumbing. He owns a plumbing company here in Garland where we grew up. And hey, Jason, if you lose me, we're having a lightning storm right now. If I go away,
yeah, that's fine.
It is what it is.
I understand.
But the thing is, I called him the other day because he sees what I'm doing on YouTube. He sees what I'm doing on TikTok. I mean, we're doing stuff everywhere, and it's just going crazy. And I asked him, I said, man, have you ever thought about doing anything? He said, Roger, you know what? He said, I get 40 calls a month from next door. And that one neighborhood app, every time he goes into people's houses, every time his plumbers goes in, he tells them, guys, look, if y'all ever see anybody asking for a plumber on next door, will y'all please recommend Speaks Plumbing? And they do. And he just literally told me, look, I'm almost tired of advertising. I get more calls off next door than I do off the ads that I'm buying. But it takes a little bit of all of it to make it work. I do get calls off Facebook. We just don't do a whole lot on Facebook. I get most of my stuff off YouTube. But you know what? You've got to know where your customers are. And I call it your avatar. Who is your customer? What do they look like? And then what social media platforms are they on? Your best customers may be on Facebook. Do research, figure it out. And if so, start making great content for Facebook.
That makes sense when you talk about that guy getting next door leads, because if we talked about the relational aspect, it doesn't mean you got to go to their kids' birthday parties or anything. It's like if they're your customer and you spent 3 minutes getting to know them a little bit, then they're comparing you with all the other lawn care guys or plumbers they've had in the past. And they're saying, oh, wow, this plumber was so much more professional and different than the rest of them I've had. And they will. I mean, I'm blown away. The software I use is when I send out my invoices, it has a tip option. I am blown away at the tips I get. And I think it's just because they're like, you know what? He's just a halfway decent guy that showed up and did a good job, and they just are throwing money at you because they've had such bad experiences in the past.
Yeah, but think about that too. They're blown away because of your customer service. And Jason, look, it does not matter what business. I mean, we got carpet guy, we got landscape people, we got plumbers. And I've seen two of my people in here, so I know there's been a couple other plumbers in here. Here's the thing. Customer service is something people don't focus on anymore. And like you said right there, RBL Jackson put in, that's a great tip right there. Gold nugget. Treat them like a friend and treat their yard like it's your own. One thing we tell every plumber we have, every house you walk in, fall in love with your customers. You'll always do the right thing. But the next one is treat the house like it's your mother's or your grandmother's. What would you do there? And I mean, think about it. When you're out working on a yard, somebody's got a sprinkler head sticking up. Do you just mow over it and break it off, or do you go up and push it down and say, look, man, if this was my grandmother, I wouldn't want nobody breaking her head. Or if you find a broken head, do you go tell them, hey, look, there's a broken head out here. I could probably pick one up and replace it next week. It literally just unscrews and goes back in. What can you do to go above and beyond what any other lawn care technician in town will do? Because when you start doing those things, you're going to start getting the majority of the work.
Yeah, I'll have a quick story here. One time I was working on this guy's yard, and he had hired me. He wasn't happy with his other company, and I'd done his yard a few times spraying weeds and stuff. He had this one weed. It's called Dallas grass. It's our worst weed that we deal with.
I'm in Dallas. We get it.
It's awful, Anyway, and just I was out there in the summer. Anyway, he comes pulling up while he wasn't home while I was doing the work, but he pulled up while I was there, and I was out there trying to hand pull one of these big clumps of Dallas grass. Now, if I wouldn't do that if he had 100 of them, but he just had like one or two. I'm like, I'm so sick of looking at this Dallas grass. And he stopped and come walking out there. He said, I've never had a guy that wanted to get rid of those weeds so bad that he would hand pull them. And he stuck with me. And, I think just seeing that I tried, and who knows, Dallas grass probably came back from the dead because I hate that stuff. But he just, the fact I gave some effort, All right, it says better to convert a 1099 worker to employees or no. That's probably depending on how legal you want to be, Jeffrey. If you want to, if you're running them like an employee, then you need to under the tax law. But we're not going to pretend to be accountants. But yeah, most of the time you're going to want to get those to be a full-fledged employee if you're using them as an employee. I think what my accountants told me sometimes the key word there is control. If you're telling them you got to be here Monday morning at 8:00 and you get 2 weeks vacation, if you're determining all their things, then you are their boss and they're your employee. Absolutely. People tell me this sometimes. I don't know what you think, Roger. If I get one thing that people think I look like more than anybody is Tom Brady, but I can't hardly throw a spiral to save my life. But anyway.
Dang, Jason, I thought they were talking about me.
Yeah, well, who do people say you look like?
Now, man, I get Hulk Hogan. I get Pops from OC Choppers.
Oh yeah,
stuff like that. Whenever and really that was a great comment because I looked at that Dr. Rick comment while ago. I looked at you. I thought, you know what? He does look a lot like Tom Brady.
But I never even thought about it until, that's by far the one that I get. Somebody called me Lawn Brady the other day, so he's a winner. We're winners. Me and Tom.
Hey, you can't be. Dude just won a Super Bowl. Don't complain about it.
Yeah, he's old and still wins. All right, let's see.
It's funny. You need to send him a message and say, hey, Tom, if people ever told you look like me.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Ground Effect says, we've heard this before, skilled labor isn't cheap and cheap labor isn't skilled, or good labor isn't cheap. Yeah, that's pretty much the truth. If you find somebody, and I think it's becoming more and more challenging from what I hear, stories, people trying to hire, and it does. Do you have any advice on that from the plumbing world? Roger, do you hire somebody that's green and train them the way you want, or do you try to find somebody that's already got the skills and knowing that you're going to probably have to pay them a little bit more?
If I have people come in and apply that have the skill sets I'm looking for, we've got testing that we put them through. I believe, Jason, look, I'm one of these people. I believe in hiring for culture. I want people that are good, honest, fair, do a great job, take pride in their work. I hired a plumber here probably 2 months ago, a hotshot plumber. Dude was a top salesman for one of the biggest plumbing companies in town. Man, he was a criminal, a thief, a crook. He lied to people. He cheated people. He did sorry work. I could not get him out the door fast enough.
Yeah.
But I've got 3 apprentices that work for me right now that I would take over him any day of the week because they love what they do. Their mind's in the right spot. They want to do good for their customers. And Ground Effects put it right. Skilled labor is not cheap.
Yeah.
And cheap labor has no skill whatsoever.
And I think it goes back to your pricing. You said you can't be bottom of the barrel and then have enough money to hire anybody that's any count. So, your pricing has to be higher to be able to afford good employees, or else, I think that's the problem a lot of times with lawn care. We're just doing stuff to make, the numbers worked out when we were doing all the work ourselves. And then when you get an employee and you bring on all the overhead that goes with that, well, now your prices are not enough to support that.
So here's what I would tell you, and this is great information for any of y'all to learn. Price your jobs like you were paying the most expensive person you could hire to do it. Meaning, if I'm out pricing doing the yard next door, and Jason, you tell me, hey, Roger, look, I make $40 an hour. Okay. I need to price that job to where I could pay you $40 an hour and I could still make money. I could still make profit. I could still cover overhead, taxes, insurance, equipment. I've got to be able to cover everything, not just your $40 an hour. So anybody here needs to listen to this because this is huge. Learn to price your jobs this way from the very beginning. Because if I'm a one-man technician and I price the jobs where I can make money every time I go out, all I've built me is a great job. But if I price these jobs where I can hire the best technician in town and I can still make money, now when I get all these jobs going and good and my customers are happy, now I can bring in technician Jason and say, Jason, look, here's your jobs for the day. Now I can get out and start working on my business, selling more of those jobs. And it gives me the opportunity that either I get out and do those jobs the next day or I bring in another technician.
Because if you don't do that, what happens is most of the time people end up getting burned out. It's too much and you just can't handle it, but for so long. This guy says not to start a turf war, but Alabama or Texas barbecue. I'm assuming y'all have a little bit different style barbecue. I've only been to Texas a few times, but I don't know. I don't even know what you would call our style, but we definitely eat a lot of barbecue. There are restaurants.
I was going to say, I didn't even know Alabama had a style. Texas definitely has a style of barbecue.
Is it more beef or pork?
Oh, it's more beef, man. Our big thing is brisket.
Yeah, we're going to have more pork in Alabama, but I'd be interested in trying. I'm personally like more of a dry rub than soaking a bunch of saucy stuff on there that drowns out the taste of the meat.
And I like a little bit of both.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's see what people are saying. Thank you. Good information. Thumbs up. John French. He and I had he lives in Indiana and came through Birmingham one day. We had dinner. Good to see him. All right. Sanchez says he posts on Marketplace and gets lots of calls. Now, I'm assuming if you're doing that on Marketplace, you got to be a little sneaky on Marketplace. People want to set, like, you can't, I don't know, but I can't sell like a lawn service on Marketplace. I had to put a piece of sod on there and say, $2, and then what they cost. So I'd be interested to know how you're advertising on Marketplace. He said it's a game changer. It's a game changer because it's a little bit sneaky. So tell us a little bit more how you're going about getting your services on Marketplace.
Yeah, I don't do Marketplace at all.
Yeah, I think it's more for products. I don't think business. I see businesses on there, but it's usually a little shady how they do it. What would you say? I'm gonna ask you a personal question just from my own help here. But what would you say to somebody like me who's on YouTube, and what has helped you just kind of launch it to another stratosphere, because I tell you, I put a lot of time into YouTube, and it seems like when I don't put time into it, it does great. When I put a lot of time into it, sometimes it does great and sometimes it don't, but you got any thoughts on that?
Well, and I'll tell you what, number one, you started off well. You've hired a good coach. I don't know if you're still working with Jeremy or not. Jeremy has been phenomenal for me.
Oh yeah, I'm still working with him.
And I mean, if Jeremy was still in town, I want people close because I want to be able to get together and talk every now and then and come in and look at what I'm doing and help me out. Thumbnails and titles are the biggest things on earth. The neat thing too, and you're doing it here, start doing lives where you can engage with your community.
Yeah.
I went live earlier for 2.5 hours. I think we had 130 people in there. I've had upwards of, I think I had almost 400 people in there one time. It can get crazy sometimes, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I love YouTube and engaging with people. And I like what you're doing. What can you do to help other lawn care technicians? And to me, that's what it's all about. So I think it's great. You're doing really good.
All right. This says, when's the next lawn care conference? Jeffrey came last time. Roger, we've done 3 like live event kind of things, and my in-laws are in the wedding business, so they have a 300 person facility that I can use, and got lots of acreage out there where we can get out there and ride lawnmowers and all that kind of stuff. So we didn't do it. We did it January of 2020, right before COVID. We didn't do it this January. So I don't know. My wife thinks we should do it again soon. I'm tossing around what should we do? Try to go big with the sponsors and all that, or try to do something small, a little more hands-on. So I got to think about that, Jeffrey.
Number one, always go big and go for the sponsors.
Well, I did that, and then sometimes I think I sort of did a hybrid. Like there's sometimes that they'll get the sponsors, and then they'll just sell tickets real cheap, and I sort of did in between. I sold the tickets for like $100 and some, and then the sponsors. If I could get more sponsors, I'd basically give the tickets away. But sometimes I don't know if it's the price of the tickets that keeps people from coming or not. If it was free, I'm wondering how many more people would come. I don't know, because you got the travel involved and all that.
And here's my thing: if it's free, they're not going to see any value in it.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got to charge them for it. I went to, and I'm headed to San Antonio in 2 weeks for a conference there. I went to it in Grapevine 2 years ago, and Bad Boy had literally over at Grapevine Mills Mall or Grapevine Hotel and Conference Center, man, they had a lawnmower course set up, racing. And look, I've seen their commercials. I love their commercials. But, man, they had a heck of a conference set up over there. And, there must have been 200 or 300 lawnmowers over there that were just amazing. And it's like, you know what? You keep going the way you're going, Jason, you're going to be doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Never do it for free, and always go for the biggest sponsors you can get, and it'll work.
That's good advice. Thank you. All right. Sabino says, best advice for new lawn care beginners. I tell you, here's my advice, and this isn't going to solve all your problems, but I do think we've hinted at today. When I started off, I started 3 lawn care businesses. So I don't know if I did this the first time, but on this third one, I decided, like Roger said, I wanted to look like I'd been in business for years. So my company's called Alabama Lawn Pros, and I get calls from 5 hours away in Alabama because with my business name, they think I must cover the whole state of Alabama, which I don't. I go about 15 miles away. But anyway, with that being said, I wanted my website. I wanted my logo. I wanted everything looking like this guy has it all together, because it's hard if you just flop a sticker on the side of your car and you print some flyers off on your little home Microsoft Word and stick. It's going to be really hard to attract that top end customer. So I think you gotta go ahead and plan on that. Like, Roger's saying, like, what would I want to do if I was standing before $1 million homeowner right now to try to convince them to let me take care of their yard? Now, I don't care if I get $1 million homes or $50,000 homes or whatever, but how do I going to sell myself? And I can't come walking up there looking like, just hot garbage. You got to have your act together.
Yeah. And that's great advice, because even our plumbers, we have a uniform. We want to look good. We want to show up and look like a trained professional. And that really is a big deal. I
had a friend of mine 2 days ago I was talking to, and we're both working on our houses simultaneously. And I have a friend who's a plumber. And I told him, I said, I got Roger Wakefield's going to be on my channel. He's like, is that the guy from Texas? I said, yeah, that's him. Anyway, but he's doing my plumbing because I'm adding on to my house. And my friend is adding on to his house. And he said, I got a plumber. And he said, you know what? He said that my plumber is so great. He said he comes in. He's like our age. He comes in here. He's very professional. It was almost like culture shock that he had a plumber that was professional.
Yes.
It's like we're trained to think my plumber is going to not carry himself professional at all. He's probably going to show up late. He's probably going to charge me more than he quoted me. And I just hope he don't steal anything while he's here on the job,
Yeah, exactly.
And it ain't much higher for the lawn people, I'll be honest. We might have slightly higher expectations, but anyway. Sean says, fake it till you make it. All right. Jeff says, I'll be a speaker from a barred push mower to 100 customers in 3 years. I tell you what, Jeff, I don't know about the conference, but you need to come on here and be with me on the live. You can come on here and take questions, talking lawn care on here. So you touch base with me about that.
Now hey, Sean asked another question up there that was good. Says, are you investing in a studio or recording gear? And
all right, go ahead.
Number one, this is one of my plumbers. And I say my plumbers, he's from Nebraska, but
yeah,
he hangs out in my lives. He helps me with my Reddit. We've got a subreddit called Roger Wakefield Posts where people put in funny plumbing pictures, videos, stuff like that. It's a great idea, though. What all kind of equipment, and this is my question for you because I love learning also. Are you going to build a studio or a home studio? What kind of equipment are you doing? What do you shoot with out in the field? What do you shoot with in the office and the studio? And are you going to invest in a studio and upgrade it and do things like that? Or what are you doing, Jason?
Well, all right. So our mutual friend, Jeremy, I basically do whatever he tells me to do. So I'll tell you, I met him 3.5 years ago at a conference I went to, and he
where was it at?
It was in Ohio, and so we go to a conference, and it's very limited attendance there, and they split us up into groups. It was like 20 people. They split us up, and there's two big time YouTuber people that I knew who they were, and then Jeremy, who nobody had ever heard of. And I'm thinking, man, I hope I get paired up with one of these big time YouTubers guys, because I bet that they're big time. Well, sure enough, they divide up the group, and I'm with Jeremy, and I'm thinking, who is this guy, man? And anyway, turns out Jeremy's mom went to church with my brother. Jeremy used to live in Alabama, and so he calls his mom, and she knows my brother. And at the time he's living in Texas though, but so that's how we got connected. Well, I called him up, a few months ago and asked him if he'd help me, and he agreed. So he's got me this Sony ZV-1 camera is what I'm basically using, and that's what I'm using right now. So I've got the Cam Link thing hooked up to my, and I didn't know any of this stuff existed, just to be honest with you. I mean, I had a camera. I'm not exactly what you'd call a techie.
Jason, I'm a plumber. I'm just like you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think. Yeah, you don't look like you too much of a techie either. But
no,
anyway,
not at all.
And I don't want to be. I wish I could still use a flip phone, but I just can't anymore. So anyway, I'm still learning. He said he's trying to keep it simple for me and to help me improve. And I've got an editor. I've got a graphic design. I mean, I'm making improvements, but as far as my studio, I built a workshop on my own property. I've got several acres at my house. We just built the workshop. Now we're adding onto a house. And the reason I'm having my house is under construction, so I'm having to stay at another house right now. But I did build a studio in my workshop, but I'm afraid it's too far away from my house to get internet. So anyway, I'm not sure. I've got 4 kids, and our house is a little bit chaotic. So I don't know. I'm trying to get out in the yard as much as possible, but I live by an interstate, and that becomes another issue. Is that those 18-wheelers never stop rolling. So anyway, I've got a few challenges, but we're working through them.
You're doing good, man.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take 1 or 2 more questions. We're going to wrap this up. He says, "Fake it till you make it." Man, I'm not faking it. We got stuff to offer, but I get what you're saying. Sometimes. I tell you, sometimes you do got to get up there and pretend like you. When I've spoken in public, You just have to get up there. You have to act confident whether you are or not. Jason, how did you put together your weed control program? Did you work with a rep from a chemical manufacturer? Yeah, last week on our live, I had my friend James Bartley on, and he's the one that got me into weed control and fertilization. He works for a company called Harrell's, and they're my chemical. He's my chemical rep, and he has helped me out tremendously. It's one of those things you really need, almost like being a plumber. You got to kind of have somebody overseeing you. You're not going to get out there and just start spraying stuff on grass and hope it turns out for the best. I mean, you really need somebody to tell you what to do. Do you still cut lawns? I cut my own yard. I got about 4 acres, but I'm full-fledged spraying yards. Is it okay to keep my lawn care business simple, just mowing, trimming, pruning, leaf cleanups, keep overhead low? Yeah, absolutely. I think you got a picture of what you want your business to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Do you want to be a solo guy forever? If so, that's fine. Just be a high-priced premium solo guy because you're capped out on what you can take on. But if you know you want to grow and have multiple crews, then you got to make that decision early on, or it's going to you're going to outgrow yourself and not be prepared to make the jump. All right, let's see what Roger's done with his studio. Same thing you did with your truck and website. He built it and made him look like a big time YouTuber. You do got a pretty sweet studio, I'll say that. We just added on more bedrooms than I wanted to pay for. I don't know if I might have to wait till one of my kids moves out before I get me a dedicated. Goals for the season. Let's see. Debating if software is necessary. Yeah, you're going to have a hard time without it using a software. The idea of just mailing out paper invoices that I mean, you could get by with doing PayPal invoices and stuff, but the softwares for lawn care are not expensive. So,
what software do you use, Jason?
I use what's called Yardbook, and I love it. But Jobber's a good one too, and there's a bunch of good ones, and they're not that expensive.
We started out with Invoice ASAP, and it's not very expensive. It's a good package.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Roger, can you maybe to Ian, can you share one story with us, the nastiest plumbing thing you've seen, or maybe the nastiest is too nasty to even share on here, but just something a good story to wrap up the video.
Jason, this is one I get asked about a lot. What is the worst plumbing job you've ever been on? And this is when it was in the 80s. It was the first service company I'd ever worked for. I had built houses, apartments, condos, stuff like that. But I'd wanted to learn service, so I went to work for a service company. And they sent me over into South Dallas one day to an apartment complex that, man, it wasn't much of an apartment complex. And they told me that I was going over there to unstop a toilet. And I went walking down the hallway. And I mean, by the time you got close, you could smell it. And remember, this is apartments with indoor facing doorways. So you walk down a corridor down the middle.
Yeah.
And every apartment you walk past, the door was open. And I got to the one with the right number, and I turned and looked, and the lady just pointed, and she said, yeah, it's back there. And I walked in, and there was a toilet in this bathroom that looked like they had been using it for the last 6 months, stopped up, and never flushed it. It was overflowing. There was paper, poop, everything in the world. And I just looked at it, and I turned and walked back around. The girl said, wait, you going to fix that? I never even slowed down. I went to the truck and called the office. I said, y'all need to get somebody out here to unstop this. And they said, Roger, that's what you're there for. I said, And I just, that is the only job in my life that I ever know that I've walked away from. And the only reason I did it, they told me I did not have a choice.
Yeah.
Man, I'm a grown man. I do have a choice.
Yeah. Have you ever been on a job where you or somebody you see vomited from the smell or the sight or anything?
Oh yeah. Yeah. If I'd have stayed there much longer, I'd have vomited from that one. It was pretty tough.
Yeah, I'd say it's not everybody's cut out to be a plumber. I tell you that I heard a story just recently that was I got hit with about $6,000 plumbing bill from my wife when we got married. It was her house she lived in before we were married, and was renting it out Well, our tenant, we was hours away from where we live. My tenant we didn't do a good job being a landlord, but she forgot to tell us that there was raw sewage under the house for months, and so he's like, please inform us. So anyway, I think about $6,000 later, we got it fixed. But if I was a plumber, I'd have probably charged $6,000 too to have to deal with that. And
Yeah,
an 18-inch crawl space it's just miserable anyway. So
yes, indeed.
All right. We're going to wrap it up. Roger, I really appreciate you being on here and hope everybody's enjoyed it, whether you're watching live or on the replay. And we'll continue to try to do these on Monday nights. Hopefully we can keep it going. But thanks, Roger. We're all going to continue to watch what you're doing on YouTube, and a fan from afar. Maybe one day we'll get to meet in person.
All right, Jason, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you later.
All righty, sir. Bye-bye.